Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm going to give people a chance to arrive. We're going to start officially at 9. So I'm going to start in, about 4 minutes while I get a few things set up. Edwin, can you hear me okay? Is this something you can hear? I'm using an external mic. So could you do a little chat there and just say, hey, I can hear you, or I can't hear you. Am I too quiet? Am I too loud? Hey, Dwight. Hey, can you guys hear me all right? I want to make sure that everybody can hear me. Tap, tap, tap. Perfect. Okay, good. Good. Thank you, Dwight. I appreciate that. All right, let's see here. I've never done a live stream here before, so this will be fun. Oh, Darren, you're here too. Nova Sarfi. Hi, everybody. Wow, it's good to see everybody. Okay, that mutes me. What does this one do? That shares the link. Okay, and this one does nothing. All right. Hey, everybody, if you're just joining, we're going to start officially in about 3 minutes. I'm just giving people a chance to hop on board here while I also figure out the controls since I've never done this before. All right, so we're doing chat. We're doing the chat. The chat's set up. That's nice. What does this do? No, I don't want to do that. Okay, everything looks good, I think. Well, good morning, everybody. It's so good to see everybody. Hey, how do you like my shirt? This is from Aquaforest. I got this this mystery package from Poland. Like, it was literally all the way from Poland, and they sent me some T-shirts. So that was so nice. Hey, everybody! What we got? Edwin, we got Dwight, we got Nova, we got Rogue Aquariums, MS. Hi, everybody. I like this one, although I would personally put it to 1.026. Hey, by the way, I'm guessing, like, put a little note there in the comment. Is this backwards to you? Because I'm looking at it, and on YouTube, it's showing it in a mirror. So, like, is it showing it in a mirror as well? Eventually, no, it's not. Oh, it's showing it normally, Dwight? Okay, that's good. What's going on? Hey, Queen City Reefs. Hi, everybody. It's not backwards. Great. Okay, so it's only showing backwards to me. All right, that's good. That's a good thing. Looks straight. Awesome. I am tired of hair algae, and I cannot get rid of it. Oh, I already see our first one. Hair algae. I just got rid of hair algae, so maybe we can talk about that. Maybe that'll be one of our first topics. All right, we still got a minute before we're officially starting, so you guys can just chill out. I'm going to be here for everybody who's here right now. I'm going to be here for at least 1 hour, from at least 9 to 10. But if people are coming in and asking questions, I will go up to 2 hours. So please don't feel like you need to stay the whole time. Okay, this is literally like a help desk. You're just supposed to drop by and ask a question. And if you also want to just kind of chat or help people answer, you can say, hey, Matthew is completely wrong, and leave something on the chat and say, here's what I would do, or, drop a link or drop a resource that's going to help people. All right. We're getting started here soon. Should be fun. Some of my animals may make a random appearance, and also my children. They've been told to kind of stay out of this area, but hopefully not. Oh, and these lights should come on at 9. Wait, are they coming on? Yes, they are. Oh, look at that. Oh, they're coming on right live. So exciting. These are the reef breeders, in case you guys are wondering. And they have a beta version of, like, a Wi-Fi chip, which is awesome. So I just programmed them last night, and they're all coming on. That's so nice. Hi, everybody. Dwight, Queen City Reef. What's going on? Rogue, Queen, Dwight, MS, hair algae, drinking whiskey or coffee? Come on, neither of those. I'm drinking tea, actually. I'm a tea drinker. I used to drink a lot of coffee. But it just tore my stomach up. So now I drink tea. It's actually even iced tea. So how long should you run a skimmer? Oh, these are really good questions. Okay. 9 o'clock. Hello, everybody, and welcome. For those of you just joining us, and for those of you who know me or don't know me, my name is Matthew. I run my first fish tank. This is the help desk. All right. I'm going to do this every week, at least once a week, as long as people find it helpful. I have found that I get a lot of questions, and I remember going back when I was a beginner, having all these questions and not knowing where to turn for answers. So this is your live help desk. I will be your answer person. All right. You come to me if you have a question, whatever it is, doesn't matter how small it is, ask it. I will answer it. If I don't know the answer, I have a whole bunch of tabs lined up here. I'm going to look for the answer and try to supply you with that answer. So yeah, that's basically how it's going to work. We're going to go live on YouTube. You can also check me out on Instagram if you want to send me like a direct message and ask a question on there. I'll have my phone out as well. This is not necessarily meant that, you know, you don't need to stick around the whole time. If you want to stick around the whole time, you totally can. You're going to get a lot of my opinions and stuff like that on various topics, but it's meant as like a drop-in. So come and go as you please and ask questions away and I will answer them. So, all right, let's get started here. All right, here we go. Oh, thanks, Queen City Reefs. It's nice. I'm going to go to the top of the chat. Now, if a lot of people start chatting and I don't see your question, just ask it again. I will try to go and scroll back to the top. And if you are in the chat and you have an answer as well, go ahead and share that in the chat, because as we all know in this hobby, everybody has a different opinion. And I'm just going to give you the opinions that have worked for me. All right. And I could be totally wrong. I've been totally wrong before, but hopefully it will be helpful for you. All right, here we go. Let's start at the top here. What's going on, everybody? Look straight. All right. I'm tired of hair algae in my seahorse tank. Okay, hair algae. How many of you guys have dealt with hair algae? I don't know if you guys have seen, but one of my last tanks, I had this 120-gallon tank right in the other room, which is now broken down. It had hair algae to the max. It was awful. I mean, the hair algae was awful. It was on every single piece of live rock. No matter what I did, it didn't seem to disappear. Well, I figured out how to make it disappear. And I'm going to tell you how I made it disappear. And I made it disappear miraculously well. But the problem with what I did in making the hair algae disappear is that I destroyed a lot of the beneficial bacteria in the tank. So what happened the first time I made it disappear? Cyanobacteria. What happened the second time I made it disappear? Dinos. Okay, so I'll tell you what I did, and we'll go from there. So to get rid of hair algae, in my experience, step number one is, if you can, don't let it take over. Now, if you're asking a question about hair algae, it's probably already too late. But as you notice it, try to remove it, right? And that can be difficult. Hair algae will spread. Now, when you remove it, like, I wish I had some props with me here. Don't just like pull it out and let it float around your tank, because then all that's going to happen is it's just going to float around your tank, land somewhere else, and then grow there. So what I would do is I would take like your siphon, your gravel vac, right, and like put your hands into the tank and like pull it off and then suck it right up, right? And if you're like, oh my gosh, I have way too much in there, and I'm just going to be draining all the water from my tank. Well, what you can do is you can just take a piece of flexible tubing, right? Take a piece of flexible tubing and start a siphon and put the other end of your siphon. If you have a sump, you can put it into a sump, like, and tie it to a filter sock. So if you tie it to a filter sock, then as you're sucking out all that hair algae, it's just going to go into that filter sock and then back into your sump. But if you don't have a sump, like this tank back here, just put it into a bucket and then stop occasionally. So basically, I would put one end of the flexible tubing and start the siphon, put the other end into a filter sock, into a 5-gallon container, and then it will catch all of that hair algae as you're removing it. And then, you know, as you're going on, you can just break the siphon, pour the clean water back in the tank, and then go from there. So that would be the first thing, manual removal. The second thing I would do is cleanup crews. Now, if your hair algae gets really long, like mine was in the 120-gallon, a cleanup crew by itself is not going to do anything. Like, you could have turbo snails, you could have astrea snails, you could have margarita snails, you could have fighting conch, whatever you have. You could have hermit crabs galore. They're not going to mow it down. I mean, I'm sure some of you have had that before. Like, they're not going to solve the problem all by itself. Once it's a huge problem, there's, you know, a cleanup crew is not going to help. What I have found most helpful, especially in this tank back here, which has no nuisance algae, I have found it really helpful to make sure you stock a cleanup crew early on, because I don't know if this is right or not, but I believe that a cleanup crew, especially like turbo snails or trochus snails, they will graze on your live rock and they will eat some of that hair algae before it grows long. Once the hair algae grows long, there's really nothing that can be done from a snail perspective. It's just going to grow. But if you catch it early on, I think that's helpful. I also think it's really helpful in this tank, why I don't have a lot of problems, is I have a ton of pods. Now, mainly amphipods in this tank. They're quite large, and they're just constantly crawling over the rock, constantly crawling over the sand. and cleaning things. So, okay, so we have preventative maintenance for hair algae. All right, so remove it, manual removal. Cleanup crew is going to be really, really helpful for hair algae. And then worst case scenario, right? Oh, and sorry, not worst case. Another thing I think is really helpful is to outcompete it. Okay, so if you can set up some sort of refugium with macroalgae, or you can somehow externally plumb a Cato reactor, which is just like a big reactor that you put Cato in and there's lights around it, that can work really well. You can also do like a hang on the back refugium. You need to somehow outcompete it for nutrients, because the hair algae, what does it need? Well, it needs light, it needs nitrates, and it needs phosphates, right? Those are the three things that pretty much all the algae need, right? So how can you outcompete it? Well, if you have a refugium or a Cato reactor or something, and you leave the lights on that more, right? So maybe even consider running your refugium or your Cato reactor or your hang on the back refugium 24 hours a day, right? Hopefully what that can do, now this isn't going to be like a cure-all, right? But what you can do over time is as you're manually removing all of that hair algae, and I'm talking weeks and months here, I'm not talking overnight. As you're removing all that hair algae, right, what's going to happen is hopefully your macroalgae in your sump or your refugium will grow more and more and more and take up more and more of those nutrients. They'll take up more of those nitrates. They'll take up more of those phosphates, you know, and eventually outcompete that nuisance algae. So that's a really good technique. It's not a simple technique, and you're like, oh, I just set up a refugium, or oh, I just set up my Cato reactor, and there's still hair algae. Yes, there's still hair algae. Okay, you might have to go to one of the last resorts, which is using some sort of chemical means or outcompeting it with other biological media. And let me tell you what I mean. Okay, so hair algae is the discussion for anybody just joining us. We're talking about how to get rid of hair algae. So we're talking about manual removal was the first thing we talked about. We talked about, using a siphon, how to do that. And by the way, I'm going to save this video to my YouTube channel. So if you want to come back after this is done, I'm going to do a little editing to this video so that you can then search just by question, and it'll have a timestamp so you can go right to it and you can go back and you can look at it in the future. So we talked about manual removal, which can work just fine. We talked about setting up a refugium. We talked about outcompeting it with a refugium. We talked about a cleanup crew, right? But sometimes that's just not enough, right? So another thing you can do, and this has worked for me, and I got to look it up right now. I hope you guys can still see me. I have used, there's several different products out there. The one I most recently used, put a link in the comment there. If you're watching, put a link there. What's that Brightwell product? I think there's also one by another company that removes hair algae. What's it called? It's not clean. What is it? Microbacter is one of them, but I'm not talking about Razor. Thank you, Razor. Okay, Queen City, Razor. You got it. Razor. All right, and let me pull it up for you here. Razor. Razor worked like nothing else. Now, Razor is not the only kind of like systemic cleaner out there. There are others out there as well. I like Brightwell products. I really trust Brightwell products. So I am finding the link here for everybody. Razor was amazing. I have used it twice, and it worked like nothing else I've ever seen. I'm logging in here. It got rid of the hair algae in 2 weeks. No joke. No joke. There were downsides to getting rid of hair algae in 2 weeks, and I want to make sure you guys know that. But here we go. Wait, here comes the Razor link for anybody who's looking. Sorry, I'm just doing the links here. See if I can do it. Will it share links? I think it does. Okay, there. Okay, so there's the link to Razor. I just put it in there. Razor works. Oh my gosh. Razor totally works. Vibrant, heat wave reefer, yes. Vibrant's the other one. Razor and Vibrant. Vibrant, I think, is a little more expensive. I'm not sure. It works. Here's how it works. Okay, my 120-gallon tank was covered. Every inch was covered with hair algae. No joke. It was so disgusting. I felt so ashamed every time I walked by it. Okay, so I got the Razor. I can't remember who recommended it to me. I was like, yeah, right, this isn't going to work. Whatever. I get the razor. I follow the dosing instructions. You dose it daily, and you dose it daily for 7 days. I think it is. Okay, and you up your dose over time. It starts out with like a low dose, and it gets a little bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay. What you will notice with the hair algae as you're dosing it, the hair algae will slowly turn from a green to a gray. Okay. And once it turns that gray color after about a week, what happens is when you go in and try to remove the hair algae, for example, if you've ever tried to remove hair algae before, you know that it holds onto the rock like it's nobody's business. It is really hard to pull it off. But once you use a razor or a vibrant, you can just brush it off. You can just put in a soft bristle brush, even a toothbrush, and you can rub your rock, right? And poof, the hair algae disappears. Like it's amazing. Now, it's not like a one-time thing. You're gonna have to keep removing it, you know, for probably a couple weeks. And it works like a charm, okay? Now that your hair algae is gone, you've used this product, you've gotten rid of your hair algae. Now what do you do? Well, here's what happened to me. After I got rid of my hair algae, and I had to do this twice. I used razor, it worked really well. It probably took me a couple weeks. I had to get my hand in there a lot. I had to do a lot of manual removal, but it was gone, right? First thing that happened, first outbreak was cyanobacteria. I don't mind cyanobacteria so much because I know how to get rid of it. I mind the dinos that come after that. But first outbreak was cyanobacteria. And because what does razor do? You know, like how is it destroying that hair algae? Well, it's somehow taking out the nutrients in the system, right? I mean that's really what it's doing. It's not like attacking it, but it's removing the nutrients from the system, which is causing your nutrients to crash. And when you have really low nutrients, especially when we're talking low nitrates and low phosphates, like zero, undetectable, nothing, that is when cyano comes in, at least in my experience, and that is when dinos can come in. And it's really, really frustrating. So of course I didn't do anything. I removed them like, oh great, it's all gone. And then the cyano came in. What should I have done? Now, I don't know if you guys know this, you can do a few things. Bahama Llama's making a comment here. You can, number one, you can add nutrients back in. Okay, you can add nitrate and you can add phosphate back in. That's easy to do. There are products out there where you can actually add those things back in. You can also add in, it might also be helpful to like add in microbacter or like other kinds of beneficial bacteria, right? But just notice that once that razor has done its job, once it's finished, right, you're going to have to watch, you're going to have to pay attention because you could get cyano, you could get dinos, all right? Yeah, add bacteria because of imbalance. Yeah, here, let me see you guys' comments real quick. What else do you guys have here? I'm using Vibrant Reef to try to defeat those dang dinos. No, Jado, I'm not sure about Vibrant and dinos. Beating dinos, I've done it a few times, and that's a whole nother conversation. Let's see, what else we have. I started using Microbacter Clean to get rid of the hair algae. Did I get the wrong product? Microbacter Clean. Let me look. I gotta look it up. Microbacter, I think they're similar. Microbacter Clean. I'm looking it up. If you know the answer to this one, go ahead and answer in the comment. I can't spell microbacter. Microbacter. I think Microbacter Clean works the same. Am I lying here, people? Have you guys used Microbacter Clean? Clean uses bacteria, Razor doesn't. Aha! Thank you, Producer Reefer. Producer Reef, do you have a recommendation for which one works better? Or yeah, I don't know. Why don't you leave a comment there, Producer Reef? Have you used both of them? Does one work better than the other? Does one not cause the no, they're not, Matthew. Thank you, Darren. Razor and Clean do not work the same. Okay, so if somebody knows the difference between the two and which one works better for hair algae, I use Razor. Razor worked. I did not use Clean, so I can't speak to whether or not Clean worked. Right? Razor cleans, Microbacter loosens. Oh, interesting. If you have multiple tanks, I'd recommend a toothbrush for each tank. Yeah, absolutely. All right, okay, I'm gonna go look back up here. Here we go. You have to Sometimes you have to dose more than once. Yes. Does Razor mess with any corals in the tank? I didn't have any corals in that tank, so I can't speak to that. I haven't used Razor on any other tank. I believe it's safe for that, but whether or not your corals are affected by it, I'm not sure. My home as a whole, okay, we'll get to those dang dinos. Yeah, I hate dinos so much. Add bacteria because of imbalance. Clean uses bacteria. Okay, so that was the answer for hair algae. That's how I beat it. Manually remove it, clean up crew, refugium, Cato reactor, something like that. All else fails, use something like a vibrant or a clean, and those will work just fine. Clean will take longer because it's bacteria. Great, awesome. Okay, all right, next question. Who has a question now? Should I go back up and look at the questions, or if you want to type a new question, you can do a new question, and we'll move on to a new question here. How soon? All right. Oh, if I'm starting a new saltwater aquarium, how soon should I start up a fuge? Excellent. I will, Darren. How soon should I start up a fuge? Okay. All right, Jason. That's a good question. Let's answer that one. That one should be relatively easy to answer. And again, if you disagree with my answer, go ahead and leave a comment. That's going to be fine. Leave a live chat. Okay. How soon, if you're starting a brand new saltwater tank, right, and you want to set up a refugium, and I'm assuming you want to set up a macroalgae refugium, is that right? That's the point, is to put different macroalgae in there. That's what I'm going to assume. How soon can you start it up? The answer is immediately. You don't need to wait. All right. My understanding is that the ammonia that's produced during a cycle isn't going to be high enough to damage the macroalgae, because macroalgae can actually use the ammonia. So you can start a refugium up relatively soon. The biggest question is going to be, and where I've failed with macroalgae refugiums in the past is because I have run low nutrient systems. I've always run low nutrient systems. And I just think that's just my nature. I'm a very clean kind of guy, and I get my hands in there way too much, right? So if you're starting out a brand new system, the only concern I'm going to have is, will there be enough nutrients for your macroalgae to survive, right? You could dose things like nitrate, you could dose things like phosphate. So if you're going to start a macroalgae refugium right at the beginning, just pay attention to your levels. Pay attention to how much phosphate and how much nitrate there is there, right? But other than that, yes, you can start a macroalgae refugium right away. Rogue Aquariums, thank you. That's super kind. I really appreciate the donation. That's very, very nice of you. All right. Next question. What do we got here? Let's see. You add macroalgae right away. Then when do you add the pods? Oh, good question. You can add the pod. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can add the pods relatively soon thereafter. I mean, if you think about pods are invertebrates. Invertebrates are going to be negatively affected by large amounts of ammonia. I mean, that's my understanding. If fish are affected by the ammonia, I'm assuming the pods are going to be affected by ammonia. So I might wait until the ammonia goes down, and then you have your nitrites and your nitrates. I don't think those are going to have any sort of negative effect. So maybe just wait until your ammonia goes back down, which will be what? I mean, like a week or so if you're using any sort of beneficial bacteria to jumpstart it. And then you can add your pods after that. For your pods, if you're adding brand new pods to a system, you're probably going to want to add some sort of supplemental feeding as well. So, you know, go with like an algae barn product, go with a reef nutrition product, get the live Phyto Feast, I think is what Reef Nutrition's product is, or Algae Barn has like the live phytoplankton, because that will be their food, at least until the system gets up and running where the system can feed them by themselves. All right, does that make sense? All right, quick break here. Let me have a little sip here. Hey, if you haven't yet, if you guys are on here, if this has been helpful for anybody, if you could give this video a thumbs up, that will be very helpful. We have 20 people on right now, which is amazing. Thank you guys for coming by. I cannot believe 20 people are on my live streams. When I do Instagram live streams in the past, I get like 8 people at a time. So this is great. Thank you guys. I really, really, really appreciate it. All right, next question. Let's go back up here. Let's go to the top. Let's see what we got here. And it's great. This is really fun. I'm really enjoying this. I'm having a good time here. What's going on? I'm tired of hair algae. Good. We got that one. That was a long answer. Drinking cafe here. Love your channel. Thanks. That's nice. Termination for live. Oh, okay. All right, Nova Sarfi. I don't know if you're still here or not. We're going to do your question. Your question is, what are your recommendations for live versus dry rock for a starter tank? I have so many opinions on live rock. It's not even funny. So I'm going to pour myself a little bit more tea before I answer that. So for those of you who have been in the hobby a while, obviously beginners you haven't, but I know some of the people here aren't beginners. I'm looking over here in the chat. You remember the days when live rock came wet, right? It came in a box, and the box was wrapped in, like, inside the box was like wrapped in like newspaper, like damp newspapers, right? And you got this amazing rock. You got this rock from Fiji, from Indonesia, from Thailand. You got like different kinds of like Pukani rock and Fiji rock. And there was Tongan branching. I mean, there's so many kinds of cool rock out there, and it came wet. And why that was so amazing to get wet live rock? Well, because it comes packed with living organisms from the sea, both the good and the bad. It comes with the, with some of the nuisance pests, but it also can have some really good hitchhikers, and it's crammed with good beneficial bacteria. Okay. Well, those days are pretty much done in the hobby. At least from pulling it from the reef standpoint, for various reasons. There are still suppliers out there where you can get wet live rock that sustainably source it from areas of the ocean. Basically, they set up their own area in the ocean, they drop their own rock in there, and then over months it populates, and then they send that to you, right? That's a very good way to go about things. I've never done that. I have this irrational fear of pests and hitchhikers, but some of my friends have said, Matthew, the benefits of an absolutely live rock by far outweigh the negatives. Yes, are you going to get various pests? Are you going to find Aptasia on there, or some sort of nasty bristle worms that are the fire worms? Or are you going to find some sort of corally? I mean, yes, you're going to find pests. But for every pest you find in live rock, there's an answer to it, right? That being said, for a complete beginner, I do not recommend buying live rock pulled from the ocean. And I know I have a feeling people are going to disagree with that. I have a feeling. I don't recommend buying live rock pulled from the ocean. Why? I think if you introduce too many pests and too many things too early on, it might overwhelm a beginner. Now, yes, I could see a beginner saying, I could see an expert saying, yes, but when you have all these extra things, it's going to help stabilize an aquarium. Absolutely, it's going to help stabilize an aquarium. But I just think it's better for beginner to go with a dry live rock. By the way, is anybody ever confused by the term dry live rock? Like, how can you buy a rock that's dead and yet it's alive? Has anybody ever wondered that? Dry live. Okay, it's a misnomer. When you buy live rock and it's dry, it's not alive. Okay, it's not alive. It will become alive in your tank once it's populated by beneficial bacteria, right? So it will become alive. We just call everything that we put in our tank live rock. So what do I recommend for dry live rock? First thing I would mention is budget. If you're looking to save money, and like if your goal is to get a decent product at a really good price, I have 2 recommendations. Let me put links here for you. And this is just for budget, okay? Knowing that this is not necessarily going to be the prettiest rock out there, but it's going to be affordable per pound. I don't know, somewhere around $3 a pound, I'm guessing. Let's see if I can link here. And I'll give you guys a couple links for it. We will do, one link will be Marine Depot, and then I'll do an Amazon link for people who want to buy it on Amazon. So here's the first link. My first recommendation for people on a budget. It's just your standard Aquamax dry live rock from Marine Depot. It's by Marco Rocks. It's super affordable, and it works really well. It comes in good shapes. It's highly porous, which is great. And then let's see here, live rock saltwater aquarium. And I'm also going to give you a link here. Where's the link here? One left in stock, 10 pound. That's not the one. I'm looking for the link on Amazon as well. I'm not finding the one I want right now. So I'm just going to leave you with that one. Yeah, Marco Rocks. For those who don't know, Marco Rocks, they're sold under the Aquamax brand at Marine Depot. Marco Rocks are not pulled live from the ocean. They're quarried rocks. And my understanding, and I could be wrong, but my understanding of Marco Rocks and other quarried rocks is these are old skeletons, basically, of old corals that have been buried over time, right? So you're getting like an aragonite based live rock. It's really great. It's a good rock. It comes to you, it stacks really well. You can drill holes in it. You can do whatever you want. If you just want to save some money, go with that link, right? Now, if money is only like a secondary issue and you want to get something that's pretty, because here's the reality, right? You can't, I have a really bad reflection right now, sorry. But you are going to stare at your aquascape for the rest of your life. Can you change an aquascape? Yes. Is it a huge pain in the butt to change an aquascape? Yes. For so many reasons, especially once you already have corals on there. Oh my gosh, will people stop? So my cat wants to come in here. So no, this isn't gonna work. Oh, sorry, buddy. So if you're gonna spend some money on something early on, okay, you wanna say hi? Sorry guys, my cats. This is like rub time for my cats. So sorry. Does it save money to buy an inexpensive rock early on? Yes, it does save money, but it's something you're gonna stare at for the rest of your tank's life. So if you can afford it, I recommend a couple other products just because they look so much prettier and they're both man-made. All right. The first one I would recommend would be Real Reef Rock. It's spendy. Let me find the link for everybody. Close. Real Reef Rock. It's man-made. It comes in a cool coralline color. They sell it in different styles and different shapes. I used it for my neighbor's tank. Here's a link. Here's a link to Real Reef Rock. That's just to their website. It's beautiful. It's a super beautiful color. The only downside I found with Real Reef Rock is it does tend to break a little bit easier. So especially during shipping, like when I did my neighbor's tank, it did break a little bit. It's like $7 or $8 a pound. So it's like double the price, if not more than double the price, but you're getting something that once you put it in your tank and once you put it together, it looks stunning from day one. Okay, so that's my first recommendation. If you have a little bit more money, my first recommendation for budget is just the Aquamax. I put a link in there by Marco Rocks, plain base rock. The second recommendation is the Real Reef Rock. And the third recommendation, which I started using a few months ago, is by Carib Sea, and I really like it. I know I have a couple of buddies who also use it. Let me put a link in here. They have what's called Life Rock, right? And Life Rock shapes, Life Rock standard, and just Life Rock shelf. And let me get you guys a link to that if you would like to look at that. This is my go-to scaping rock right now, is the Carib Sea. It has a really natural looking color, much like the Real Reef Rock. The purples seem natural. Like you get some rocks, the purples don't, it just looks like a crayon drew it on. They don't look natural, but the Carib Sea looks super, super natural. I have found that it breaks apart easily when you're not in a bad way, when you're trying to scape it together. And if you use like some sort of coralline epoxy, it can really hide the seams really, really well. So yeah, those are my 3 recommendations for live rock. Oh my goodness, look at this. Like, no, you can't climb on here. Oh my God, Dominic. Good times, right? All right, so those are my recommendations. All right, I'm gonna scroll back up now. Let's see. Next question. Oh, here, let me see if anybody else commented. What's your favorite rock? Put a comment in the chat right now with like the name of your favorite live rock for beginners. That way, whoever asked that question, I can't remember, Nova Sarfi, I think, asked that question. They can see other people's opinions as well. If you like the same ones, that's great. But if not, Mega Arch and Life Rock here. Yeah, Rogue Aquariums. Yeah, Life Rock Caribsea as well. But yeah, put a comment in there what your favorite rock is. If you have one that I don't know about, put that in there to the side. All right, let's see here. Reef Saver, yeah, standard Reef Saver. Marine Depot sells a Reef Saver. Bulk Reef Supply sells a Reef Saver. I mean, those are online. Your local fish store will have a brand depending. So just you can go check out your local reef store as well. All right, what do we got here? Hello, everybody. 21 people who are here. I can't believe there's still 21 people here. That's amazing. That's fantastic, guys. If you haven't yet, if this is helpful to you, if you guys could give me a thumbs up, that will really help this. By the way, I'm going to be doing this once a week at least, and I will be here at least until 10 o'clock. But if there are questions, I will stay up to 2 hours. It's going to be a Saturday morning sort of thing, and we'll do it as often as necessary. Really, this is just going to be the My First Fish Tank help desk. I remember being a beginner and not understanding basic things. Like somebody says, "Oh, all you got to do is buy this auto top off unit and install the auto top off unit," right? Well, for beginner, they're like, "What's an auto top off unit? Why do I need an auto top off unit? You're telling me I don't add salt water to the aquarium that evaporates? Wait, water evaporates from the tank? Where do I place the auto top off unit? If I place the auto top off unit in my tank, why is it never turning on? Oh, I have to place the auto top off unit in the return chamber because that's the only one that's going to, I mean, you just see like there's all these things that a beginner just doesn't know, you know, and those of you who have been in the hobby a long time just naturally know. And so this help desk is here for that beginner. This isn't a place to have like really heady discussions about things because number one, I just don't have the answers to really, really difficult questions. But I can definitely help with beginner questions. So if you have a question, no matter how simple or silly it may sound, this is a place where I'm just going to hang out and you can come and you can ask a question and you can get an answer. I will put this help desk up on my YouTube channel after, and I will break it down by question in the description below so that you can just click on a question and you can see what my answer is. And it's also a place just to hang out with people. Hang out with people, to chat, and to share ideas, to share links. I will get better at this over time. I will eventually have like a third-party software so that I can share my screen with you so that you can see the things that I'm looking at. All right, anyway, let's get back to it here. My channel, best ATO. Caribsea, Rogue Aquariums, you're not a beginner. I know you're not. Is it possible to get rid of dinos? Dinos is such a big discussion. I don't know if I want to get into that right now because that's one of the hardest things. So let's go back to the top. Let's see what we got here. Okay, Ray Vibrant. Using microbiome cleaning. Did I get the wrong product? Okay. Is razor mess with corals? Microbacter, from my experience, helps loosen. NO3. Yes, got that. Good call, Jason. All right, here we go. Jason, another question from Jason here. My home has a whole home water softener. Should I place my RODI system after the softener? I actually just researched this because somebody had this question a while ago. A water softener system. Basically, if you have hard water means that you have a lot of minerals. All right, you have a lot of primarily salts. You have a high TDS. That's typically what we mean by hard water. So if you live in Southern California in the Los Angeles basin area or Palm Springs where I live, you have hard water. I mean, we don't have soft water. I know some cities in the Los Angeles area have a TDS of over 400. 400, no joke. When I lived in Seattle, my TDS was like 40. Like it was like drinking like fresh stream water straight from the tap. Here in Palm Springs area, we have a TDS of about 170, at least where I live. Okay, so people buy these water softener systems, and they're basically these huge vats that have different salts in there that can help absorb some of those salts from the water to lower the TDS. So where should you place your water? Where should you place your RODI system if you have a water softener? Number one, it doesn't necessarily really matter where you place it. You could place it before or after. At the end of the day, your RODI system is going to work just fine, as long as you have, as long as you do the maintenance, as long as you flush the RO membrane, as long as you change your DI resin, it's going to work fine. I would just measure your TDS, Jason. Where is your lower TDS coming from? Is it coming after or is it coming before? And chances are the whole reason you have a water softener is so that you have a lower TDS after. So personally, I would probably place it, if you're doing your RODI system inside your house, I would just place it on like the kitchen or a utility room and just attach it there, and that's going to be softened water, right? Softened water doesn't add any chemicals to it, right? It just absorbs things from the water. But if you just want to do it outside like I do, an outside spigot's not going to run through your water softening system. So that's going to be fine as well. So really, at the end of the day, it's not really going to matter. It's totally fine to place an RODI system inside the house after it's gone through the water softener. All right, next question. Carbon tank after you treat the system. Yeah, clean is bad. How? Razor chart, everything blackouts, microbacter, Dr. Tim's, nothing. Oh yeah, okay, we're not gonna go back into that though. Multiple tanks, toothbrush, clean will take longer. Sorry guys, I'm looking for a good question here. ATO might work with my sumpless rimmed. Oh yeah. Did you get a chance to figure out what auto top off might work on my sumpless? I gotta think of this. Sumpless, so just a regular rimmed 40 gallon that allows me to keep my water level above the rim. Okay, if you have like a 40 gallon breeder tank or any sort of Petco or Petsmart tank, right? They all have a black rim. This one doesn't, right? But they all have this black rim around the top. And the question is, if you have a tank that has a black rim, what auto top off system can you use? What is going to work? Because if you put an auto top off system in here, right, it's going to attach via a magnet. Here, let me just stand up real quick. All right, it's going to attach via magnet. Okay, and if you have a rim here, that magnet is going to sit down here. It's going to sit down here. So what does that mean? Is you're going to constantly see the water line, right? So the question is how can you place an auto top off unit high enough so that the water line is hidden in the black rim? There are a few different kinds of auto top off units. All right. There's really two main kinds. There's an auto top off unit that uses an optical sensor. And then there's one that uses a float valve. Right. So if you're using one with a sensor, okay, what I would do, and this is probably not ideal, and maybe some of you have some better ideas for me out there. I would get out an X-Acto knife, and I would cut a little portion of that rim away. Not a big portion, because I don't want to like mess with the integrity of the tank, but I would cut in like the back where nobody sees it, a little portion of that black rim away, and then allowing you to keep that magnet higher. Because if you have that black rim in there, that magnet is going to have to sit below the rim because it just physically can't go above the rim. So if you cut away a little piece of that rim, that's what I would do. So I know that's probably not the answer you were looking for, but that's probably the best way. You could also, I'm trying to think of like, you could install some sort of float valve that you could like hang over there, like hang over a float valve. But if you have a float valve, you're going to have that float valve attached to like some sort of electronic solenoid valve in order to turn it on, or you're going to have your reservoir up high and gravity feed it. So if you can do that, I mean, if you can put your auto top off reservoir hidden above the tank, right? Then all you got to do is set up a gravity feed, get a little float valve, put the float valve in there, and we'll just automatically turn it on and off. So that's an option as well. I know that's probably not the best option in the world, but that's the option. All right, any comments here? So it's a magnet mini sump, a must. Oh, a magnet mini sump. That's cool. Look up those mini magnet sumps. Heatwave reefer range 75 to 500. Heatwave soft, lower. Yeah, there you go. Soft. Dwight. Yep, soft. Good. Depending on your corals, soft. How much light do you need? Okay. Okay. Here we go. Moving on. Next question here. This is fun. I'm enjoying this. You guys are having a good time. Where are we here? Very helpful. Turn your light. Add your macroalgae. All right. Heatwave. All right, here we go. Carl Merritt, could you recommend a hardy coral for a Fluval Evo tank? Yes, actually, I am going to share with you a blog I wrote. 1 second. If you go to my website, and I'll just share you the link. It's a beginner guide. I'm working on the website right now on changing it around. But I have in here the beginner guide to corals. So let's pull it up here. Let me give you the link real quick. Here is the link, Carl. This is just my opinion, beginner guide to corals, ones that I think are relatively easy to keep. There's a lot of good videos out there on YouTube about the beginner guide to corals. And I actually, wait, did I do a video? Wait, did I make a video on corals? I think I made a video on corals. Hold on, I'm trying to find that video. Wait. Coral beginner guide. Wait, what was it called? Demystified coral. I think I made a video on it. Oh, I did make a video on it. Okay, let me link that too. Here it is. It is from my demystified series I did with Marine Depot. So here is that video of the coral. I think, can you just click on them? I'm assuming you can just click on them. Yeah, you can. Okay. Yes, Metro Cat. Oh, hi, Metro Cat. How are you, Cat? Yeah, I did do one. Okay, so beginner corals. What do I recommend? Go check out that video. I put a link over here, or go check out that blog as well. Let me just pull it up and look. I wish I could share my screen with you right now. Beginner corals. A beginner corals for a small tank. Okay, here's my basic recommendations. Soft corals, right? Leather corals, toadstool corals, they're going to be mushrooms are really, really easy. Most soft corals are going to be really good for a beginner tank. Acans, most acans are pretty hardy, and there's so many different out there varieties. I mean, acans work really, really well. What do I have in my tank? Softies, toadstools, acans. Zoas are great. Zoas are really good beginner corals. So softies, mushrooms, leathers, toadstools, zoas, acans. I've had a lot of success in beginner tanks with just different LPS corals as well. What else do I say in my beginner guide here? Oh, green star polyps are great in a beginner tank. Although the craziest thing, does anybody else have this problem? Whenever I add green star polyps to my tank, and I watch people's tanks who their green star polyps take over their tank. Whenever I add green star polyps to like make a little green star polyp rock, they just disappear. Like they don't flat out die, but they'll like sprout a little bit and then they'll go down, and then they'll sprout a little bit more and then they'll go down. I've never ever been able to have like a successful green star polyp. Like, what am I doing wrong to where the easiest, most basic nuisance coral will not thrive in my tank? That's an interesting question. But that's a whole nother question. Oh yeah, so beginner corals, green star polyps are really good. Scolies, people have a lot of success with them. Brain corals, toadstools, branching. Yeah, if you go with any sort of euphilia, so we're talking like the hammer corals, the frog spawn corals, the torch corals, go with the branching kind. Stay away from the wall kind, because they can just tend, if like, for example, if you get like a wall coral, basically it's just like one long wall. If something goes wrong, it will just slowly die and the whole thing will die. But if you get branching, you'll have like a branch here and a branch here and a branch here. And if one branch starts to get sick and die, then just that branch will die and you can cut it off and possibly save the rest. So that would be some of my recommendations. If you really want to see those recommendations, check out the links. I'm pointing over here. Is that, for me, that's where the chat is. But maybe for you, the chat's over there. Check it out. I did a blog, top saltwater aquarium corals, and I also have a video demystified, so you can check that one out as well. All right, moving on. Next question. How are we doing here? 50 minutes in. Hey. Hi, everybody. For those of you just joining us, if you like this, if you find this helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That would be very, very helpful. All right, here we go. We're moving on. Best ATO, Carib Sea, Reef. Best. What are your thoughts on who makes the best aquariums? Waterbox, Red Sea, Cade, others. Okay, so my opinions on aquariums, and if you're a beginner, what saltwater aquarium brand should you go with? I mean, you have the big names out there. You have Fluval, Innovative Marine, Red Sea, Waterbox, relatively new, but Waterbox is out there as well. I mean, those are some of the big names. I'm sure I'm missing some. When I'm recommending tanks to beginners, I'm often recommending smaller tanks that are more budget friendly. The tank brands that I have owned, all right? So if you're wondering, what have you owned? Okay, I have owned, let's see here. This is a Fluval tank, great little tank, Fluval M60. My first tank ever was a Red Sea Reefer 170, fantastic tank. Didn't love their sump, but a fantastic tank. Red Sea Reefer. I have owned an SC Aquariums. SC Aquariums, that was my 120 system. Great tank if you're on a budget, not the cleanest lines, not the highest end. I've owned a water box. Well, I haven't owned the water box, but my neighbors own the water box and I set it up and I take care of it. Great quality tank. The water box quality to me seems very, very comparable to the Red Sea quality. I've owned Innovative Marine tanks. I have the Encore right now. Love the Innovative Marine, really high quality tanks. And now I just am setting up right now a Reef Octopus tank. I haven't unboxed it yet. It's the Lux 90, so I can't give you an opinion on that. Every single one of those brands I just mentioned, Fluval, Innovative Marine, Waterbox, Red Sea, they're all great. If you're looking to save some money, okay, typically Red Sea is going to be one of your most expensive brands. They make a good quality product. They can charge a quality price. It's a great tank. I like, my dream build is like a Red Sea Peninsula. I don't really have a spot for it in my house. I think my wife might kill me if I get that. So Red Sea is going to be your more expensive option. If you for beginner, I would recommend getting something like an Innovative Marine. They make a lot of good small cubes and small peninsulas. They also have some like concept series that they have like a drop off tank. So Innovative Marine, fantastic. I love their rear filter. Like for example, the Encore, the Innovative Marine Encore Pro Bundle. I mean, for like under $300, you get 2 10-gallon tanks. They come with really high quality return pumps. They come with custom acrylic caddies. And the Innovative Marine tanks also typically come with like a mesh screen that's really nice. You just can't find that in a lot of tanks. So Innovative Marine for beginners, I think, is a really, really good option because it's an all-in-one system. If you really wanted to save money, you could just go to Petsmart or Petco and get your own tank and then just throw on a hang on the back filter, but it's not going to be clean and it's not going to look super nice, but it's going to be functional. So Innovative Marine's a good one. Waterbox, if you can get them. Waterbox, if you're watching this, I doubt you are. I would recommend your tanks a lot, but they're just never in stock. And that's really frustrating. So I don't typically recommend Waterbox a lot anymore because I would recommend a tank and then you just can't find it anywhere. So maybe that's good for Waterbox, you know, that they're doing a lot of sales. but you just can't find it. But if you can find it, the water box cubes are also just like the Innovative Marine cubes. They're really affordable. They're low iron glass. They come with a return pump. They don't come with like the custom caddy and a few of the nicer things like that. Red Sea, if you have a lot of money and you want a slightly larger system, you can go with the Red Sea. You're looking for a Red Sea tank for the Red Sea Reefer 170 or a Nano. You know, you're looking at a minimum $2,000 build. The tank itself is going to be less than that, but you're looking at a minimum $2,000. When if you're looking at like an Innovative Marine 10-gallon or a water box cube, you know, something you can set on a desktop, you can do that build for like $300, right? So those are some of my recommendations. What do you guys recommend? If you were to recommend, okay, here's a question. Oh, JBJ. How did I forget JBJ? Sorry, Jado. Yeah, JBJ makes a great tank too. I've never owned a JBJ. That's probably why I just didn't think about it. I've never owned a JBJ tank. If you were to recommend a tank, anybody who's watching right now, if you were to recommend a tank for a beginner, like the perfect beginner tank, someone, now don't be like, oh, get a 120-gallon tank because it's going to be more stable. Yes, but beginner can't afford that, okay? Like a normal person, what tank would you recommend? Like one tank for beginner on a budget. What would you recommend? Put something in the chat so that people who are watching this next week or next month can see your recommendations as well. Heatwave Reaver Innovative Marine Fusion 20, fantastic tank. The IM 20, such a good tank. I couldn't agree with you anymore. But yeah, put a comment over there. What beginner tank would you recommend? Oh, am I getting low on tea here? Hey, everybody. For those of you just joining us, my name is Matthew from My First Fish Tank. This is the help desk. I'm just sitting here in front of my tank answering your beginner questions. I'll be here every week and maybe more if people like this, if they find this helpful. I found there was a time in the last couple months where I was spending 2 hours a day. No joke, 2 hours a day on Instagram answering questions. I love answering questions. I think it's really helpful to answer questions, but I figured something like this way everybody can see the answers, and not only can I give you answers, but anybody who's here on the live chat can also give you answers. So this is the help desk. We're here for beginners. Ask any questions that you want. Help out with your answers. You can put links in here so people can see them. Yeah, that's that. If you like this, if this is helpful, if you guys could give me a thumbs up, that'd be really, really helpful. All right, here we go. Moving on here. Coral. What else do people recommend? BioCube. Oh yeah, the BioCube. Coral Life. The Coral Life BioCube is fantastic. It's been around for years, and you can get it on Amazon, which is great. You can get it from your local fish store, which is great. There's nothing wrong with a BioCube. A BioCube has these, like, I believe it has the rounded glass edges. It has a hood on it that comes with the light. It's inexpensive. Great option, Cat. That is a fantastic one. JBJ 45 all-in-one. Start off with, I believe there's like $7.99 with stand. Yeah, JBJ 45. That's for a beginner, that would be like a really big tank for a beginner, but a really good sized tank. A 45-gallon tank is like that sweet spot to where it's not too small, where you can only have a couple fish, and it's not super massive to where it's crazy expensive. All right, next question here. Do we have any more questions? Let's see. Carib Sea, Mega Arch. Is it possible to get rid of dinos without macroalgae? Do you guys want to do the dino discussion? Like, I feel like this is a really hard discussion. Let's do a quick dino discussion. Okay. For a beginner, for a total beginner, dinos are one of the most difficult topics to grasp. For an expert, dinos might be more understood, but equally difficult to get rid of. When we're talking about dinos, we're talking about dinoflagellates. Dinoflagellates are super duper common in the ocean. And I actually have an old video. I will link it to you. I don't know. I did this years ago. It's one of my most watched videos, actually. Dinoflagellates identification. And yeah, this is from 2016. Oh my goodness, everybody. You should check out this video. It's actually pretty good. It's got, let's see here. Here we go. I'm going to link it to you guys. It's actually a decent video. Even though you can tell I've learned a lot about editing and stuff since then. But here's the link to my dinoflagellate video. It explains a little bit about what they are, why they're dangerous, and how to get rid of them. Although I would say I've learned a lot about how to get rid of dinos since then. How many views does this have? This is one of my most popular videos still to this date. Wait, what? Oh, that's the last week. What? See more. Oh, sorry, views. Yeah, it gets like 700 views a week still. That's crazy. It gets 100 views a day. Like my new videos that I spend hours and hours on don't get that many. And then like this old one here gets that many. All right. So dinos. Now we have that link. The first time I had dinos was in my Red Sea Reefer 170, and it was back in Seattle. And I didn't know what it was. I mean, beginners don't know. I mean, how do you know it's dinos? How do you know it's not diatoms? How do you know it's, I mean, you don't know anything about it, right? And you don't even know it's really an issue. The reason I discovered it was dinos was two reasons. Number one, all my snails started dying. Seriously, all of my snails were like dead. And that was problematic, obviously, because then nuisance algae started growing. The dinos started growing more. I didn't even know what the dinos were at that time. The nutrient spikes because of I wasn't able to pull out all of those snails. So, you know, the ammonia was going back up. The nitrates were going through the roof. So dinoflagellates, how you can identify them. And this can be different. There's probably thousands of species of them. But in a reef tank, they look like brown snot that defies gravity and comes up from the bottom or from your rocks with an air bubble at the end. Okay, the air bubble is obviously what makes them look like an upside down, what is that, a stalagmite? It looks like an upside down brown stalagmite with an air bubble at the end. And if you have any sort of algae grazers, whether that's snails or fish, it's poison and it will kill them. It can kill them, right? Dinos are extremely reactive to light. So in the morning time, when you first turn on your lights, you might be like, oh, the dinos are gone. And then an hour later, all of a sudden your tank is covered, right? I mean, they thrive on that light. They also seem to thrive in low nutrient systems. Those are people like me who in the past typically over-filter. They're the people who are running a massive protein skimmer in a tiny tank and pulling out all of that detritus, all of that waste. There are people who are changing a filter sock twice a day or every day to keep the water crystal clear. There are people who run copious amounts of carbon in their tank all the time. And the biggest culprits, I think, are people who run GFO constantly, who just have huge reactors with GFO, right? When your nutrients, when your phosphate and your nitrate go down to close to zero, dinos can show their head. Now, I personally believe that dinoflagellates are in every single aquarium. I don't think, I mean, I know people disagree with that, but my experience has been that they are present. But as long as they are out-competed by other algae, they will never show their head. Every single time I've had a dino outbreak, it has been after some sort of event in my tank, like some sort of event where I did a huge water, I used too much GFO, or where I used razor and killed off all the beneficial bacteria, right? That's when dinos have reared their head. And once dinoflagellates rear their head, what do you do? Do you do blackouts where you completely cover your tank with blackouts? Do you use carbon, what's that stuff called? It's the stuff, it comes in that brown bottle and you have to drop it on yourself. You get a cut and you use it to wipe. I can't think of what it is. Anyway, maybe somebody will leave a comment in there. So what do you do? How have I had success? Here's how I defeat dino. Iodine, not iodine. It's, you use it on cuts. You know, it comes in a brown bottle. You use it on cuts. It's clear. It's not carbon. I want hydrogen peroxide. Yes, hydrogen peroxide. That's it. Do you use hydrogen peroxide? I have done hydrogen peroxide dosing for the entire tank. I have done 72-hour blackouts, complete blackouts of a tank. And they've seemed to work. I mean, I know people who have broken down their whole tanks because of that, right? So what has worked for me? Okay. Dinos require a long-term solution. It's not an easy fix. It's not a hair algae fix where you dose a product and then you brush it off and it's gone. That's not how dinos work. Yes, you can do a blackout with dinoflagellates and they'll disappear, but they may just come right back. You have to address the underlying problem. And the underlying problem, my understanding, is low nutrients, and so the dinos are able to outcompete. So what can you do if the problem is low nutrients? Raise nutrients. Okay, that's going to be step one. And Camp Fussell, 100%. Dosing nitrates, we're at 0 plus carbon. Yeah, dosing nitrates, huge. Okay, so making sure your nutrients aren't too low. If you have GFO in there, take it out. You know, let your nitrates rise up. Let your phosphates rise up. I'm not talking like through the roof, but so that you can at least get detectable levels of nitrates and of phosphates. Okay, that's number one. Raise that up. Number two, manual removal. You have to remove it as much as you can, as often as you can. Okay, so get a brush in there, get a piece of flexible tubing, and suck it out every single day. This is a pain. Don't get me wrong. This isn't like easy, but suck it out all the time as much as you can. Get rid of it. You might have to do this for weeks. Okay, raise your nutrients, manually remove it. You can try a blackout or at least lower your lights. You know, maybe don't put your lights on quite as long, but raise your nutrients, manually remove it. And then dose beneficial bacteria. Pick up some Microbacter, pick up Dr. Tim's, one and only. Whatever beneficial bacteria you like to use, dose it. The hope is that that beneficial bacteria will start to be able to outcompete. Yeah, it will colonize your rocks. You know, then when you have more phosphates, when you have more nitrates, that maybe some other sorts of algae will be able to outcompete it. Okay, so that's what I would do. I raise nitrates, I manually remove it, I add back in beneficial bacteria, and then I just fight it. I mean, I fight, and it typically works. I mean, this isn't a simple solution and there is no easy answer, but if you follow some of those steps, it can work. It can work, but you've got to address the underlying issue, which is probably low nutrients. What do you guys have? Success with blackouts, dosing nitrates. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I got my dino after I had a marine velvet case and removed all fishes in quarantine. Yeah, I mean, the stories are the same. Don't panic, okay? If you have dinos in your tank, please don't panic. There are even seasoned pros who not necessarily panic, but who break down their entire tanks. I don't think you need to do that. I don't think you need to start over if you have a dinoflagellate outbreak, all right? Just know it's gonna take a while to fix the problem, address the underlying issues of low nutrients, and manually remove every single day. If after doing that for a month, you still have the problem, it hasn't gone down, then you could do other things. You could start doing things like hydrogen peroxide dosing. You could do long-term blackouts and things like that. But I've always had success beating it. Dinos don't scare me anymore. Got that? Dinos do not scare me anymore because I know how to address them. Okay, there you go. Very good question. We did it. Next question. What do you got? 10 o'clock? Should I keep going? I guess I'll go a little bit longer here while there's still questions. Look up mini magnets. Let's see. Oh, Camp Fossil, you're from Germany. Love your videos. Helps so much to get into saltwater. Oh, I am super glad. My dream in this hobby is to just be the place where beginners can go. So I'm glad that my videos were helpful. That's awesome. What is the best beginner light for a reef? You guys want to talk lights? Want to talk lights? Let's do it. I am working with so I just hired somebody to help me with blogging, and his name is Max, and I doubt he's watching. He's probably writing blogs right now. Actually, we have a meeting later. Max is my blogger, and we are working on a full guide to lighting, just LED lighting. I'm not even going to go into, well, maybe I'll go in a little bit to like hybrid lighting, because here's the thing: if you're a beginner, you're gonna understand this. You're super excited. You're like, yes, I can't wait to get into this hobby. You get all your gear, you buy your lights. Maybe you even splurge and you get like fancy controllable lights, not like those Chinese black box lights, but I'm talking you get something like the Photon V2s, or you go with Aqua Illumination, you get the Hydra 16, or you go with like some sort of fancy Kessel with like a Wi-Fi dongle, or an Ecotech XR15 Pro. You know, you splurge, you get your light fixture in, and now you go, now what? Because you open up the app on your phone, if it has a phone, and there's no preset. There's nothing that tells you how, like, what colors you should run at what times of day or what intensity. There's no directions for how high above here, above your water level, do you mount your lights. You're lost. You go to the forums, you go to Marine Depot, you go to Bulk Reef Supply, and you try to consume content, but there's nowhere to get the answer. Because when we're talking lights, any sort of lights, there are several things you have to consider. You know, what is the spectrum of the light? And what do the different light spectrums mean? What do blues and reds and the ultraviolets and you know, which ones grow which, and which are responsible for nuisance algae? Height above the water line, you know, depending on your fixture. If you have a fixture that has very narrow pointed lenses and you put it too close to the water line, maybe you're just going to have like a par burn in the middle. Oh, by the way, what's par if you're a beginner? You're like, what? So you don't know what par is. You don't know how high to mount your lights. You don't understand what color spectrum is, or what do those spectrums do? What about spread? What about intensity? It's too much. Okay. So I'm going to try to make it simple for you. Here's what you do. Okay. Here's, and this is my opinion. Obviously, everything I'm saying in here is my opinion. Here's what you do. I'm going to say two things. If you just go ahead and buy a Chinese black box light, let me find you one real quick. So I'm just going to Amazon. I'm typing in saltwater aquarium light. Okay, here we go. Vipar Spectra. This is a good one. I'm going to share you guys the link. Okay. 120 bucks for a small one, $200 for a big one. Okay, here's the link. If you can check it out, you can look. This is a standard black box light. Bulk Reef Supply just did a really good live stream on black box lights. This is a good one. I have a one black box light. It's the Mars Aqua. It's terrible. It got like the worst reviews. Okay, so my two suggestions. One, if you want to go the inexpensive route and just buy a black box light, okay, do the one over here, the Vipar Spectra. You can control it. You can get a small one or a big one, all under $200. Okay. Here's what you want to do. You want to mount that light, because these cheaper black box lights typically have a narrower focus for their lenses. Okay, that means you don't want to mount this light 8 inches above the water. You want to mount this light 18 to 24 inches. 24, that's just going to seem ridiculously high. You're going to want to mount it 18 inches above the water line. Okay, 18 inches above the water line. Okay, so okay, you mounted it. You bought your light, you mounted it 18 inches above the water line. Now, all you want to do is you want to take all of your blue lights. Typically, these only have like a blue and like a white selector too. You want to take all your blue lights, turn them all on. Okay, your blues are really good for coral growth. Now, we'll go into more detail about the kinds of blues, but for now, your blues are going to be your coral growers. So if you're going to grow corals, turn on the blues all the way. Your whites, your reds, and your greens, everything that's not blue, put them down to like 20%. So if you're going to turn your black box lights up to 100% intensity, okay, let's say you're going to do 100% intensity, You're going to put your blues at 100%, and you're going to put your whites, your reds, your greens 20% to 0. You don't need your whites, you don't need your greens, you don't need your reds. Okay, but they do make the tank look better, because if you just have blues on, all you see is blue, and that's not super lovely. So you put your blues 100%, you put your reds, your greens, and your whites 20%. Okay, that's if you're mounting your fixture high enough. You could also just take that ratio, like 100% to 20%, and you could scale it down. You could put your blues at 50%, and you could put your whites, your reds, your greens at 10%. But that's what you're going to do. You're going to mount them 18 inches above. If you're doing 100%, you're going to do all the blues 100%, whites, reds, greens at 20%. Okay, that's the easiest way. It's the easiest way to do it for a black box light. If you want to go with the fancier light option, let me share you a couple recommendations here. I have a few. I've used all of these. What am I saying? My first recommendation is going to be the Aqua Illumination, the AI Prime, and I think they have a different name now, like the AI. What is it called? The AI 16 HD. Hold on here. Get you a link here. I gotta log in. Let's see. An AI Prime. Oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Try this again here. All right, here we go. This is a fantastic light. It is Wi-Fi controlled. You can control it from anywhere with your phone. Sorry, guys. This is kind of annoying. Okay, there's the link. AI Prime HD, the 16 or the 32. Okay, so you get it. You download the app. Okay, then you have to set it up. So how do you set up brand new LED lights if you're a beginner? Okay, here's what you do. You type in your search bar, you type in the Ecotech, AB, the letters AB, then you type in a plus sign. Okay, if you just type that into Google search, it is going to pull up this link, which I am doing right now, and I'm going to share with you guys. Okay, this is the link. Ecotech AB+. Ecotech is probably the best LED light maker in the business. They make the highest quality for the highest price, but they make the highest quality light out there. Okay, and they have run tests looking at coral growth for SPS corals, softies, LPS corals. But if you ask people what light schedule should I run, most people in the hobby will say just do some sort of variation of the Ecotech AB+ lighting schedule. Okay, the AB+ schedule basically says this, and you just scroll down, like check out that link I did, and you just scroll down and you go and you find, it's called the, let's see if I can find it here. Here we go. It's called the SPS AB+. Okay, it is a 9-hour photo period day. Okay, your lights run for 9 hours total, so 9 to 6, 8 to 5. With a 1-hour ramp up and a 1-hour ramp down. So your photo, your full photo period where your lights are on full blast is 7 hours. Okay, and the AB+ schedule is super duper simple. It's you do exactly what I just said. You take your AI Prime lights, your AI Prime, and you set up a schedule every single day. And you set up your schedule to run your lights for 9 hours. And you set it up, let's just say you start at 9 a.m. and you go until 6 p.m. Okay, there you go, 9-hour day. And then you ramp up your lights. You start at 9 a.m. at 0, you end at 6 p.m. at 0. And then in the next hour at 10 a.m., all you do is you take all of your blues, whatever blue lights you can control, and you put them up at 100%. Okay. And then at the same time, you take all of your whites, your greens, your reds, and you put them at 24%. Okay. That's it. So really, for 7 hours a day, your blues run at 100%, and your whites, your reds, and your greens run at 24%. So recap, 9 hours total, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. At 9 a.m., all of your lights are 0%. At 6 p.m., all of your lights are 0%. So then from 9 to 10 a.m., you put in a new point, and it's full blast. Your blues, all your blues at 100%. Your reds, your greens, your whites at 24%. And it stays like that from 10 o'clock all the way till 5 p.m. And you put it in the same point at 5 p.m. where your whites where your blues are 100% and your greens, your whites, your reds are 24%. And then from that 5 p.m., it goes back down to 0. That's it. If you're a beginner, do that. You will find success. The only thing you will have to adjust is intensity. Okay? Because if you have those lights on at 100% for a brand new coral you brought home, it might be too much. So my recommendation is just to take that ratio and adjust the intensity. Rather than starting out at 100% intensity, scale it back to 75% or 70%. That's what I would do. Beginner lights, I recommend. I already put one over there. I recommend big time the the aqua illumination lights. Good price point, full controllability. I also recommend reef breeders lights. Let's see here. Reef breeder lights. I gotta find it here. I have links to it. Reef breeder photon V2 plus. Here is a link. Those are the lights you see right behind me right now. Let's see here. Copy link address. Those are the lights you see right behind me. They currently come with like an individual controller, so you can't control it with your phone. But I'm currently beta testing like the app, so very, very soon you'll be able to buy those lights that come with an app that you can control here. Very good price point, similar to the AI Prime light. So what do we recommend? We recommend that Chinese Vipar Spectra. We recommend the Aqua Illumination and recommend the Reef Breeder light. Those are the lights that I recommend. There's good Kessel lights. There's a lot more good lights out there. Okay. What light do you guys recommend? I know there's not a whole bunch of people still on here. I think I'm going to end this here relatively soon, but what light do you recommend? If you have a recommendation, go ahead and put it to the side. All right, what are we going to do? Let's do one more question because we've been on for an hour and 20 minutes and the numbers, people seem to be dropping off, which is fine. Let's do another question here. Let's see here. What are the essential water tests I should take and how frequently? Great question. What are the essential water tests? That's a tough one for beginners. Okay. Let's break water testing down into 2 areas. Water tests that are essential during a cycle and water tests that are essential long term. Okay. Water tests that are essential during a cycle. Obviously, you need to know what the temperature is. You should always have a temperature controller of some kind. I only run a tank with temperature controllers. You need to know what your salinity, specific gravity is. My shirt. Make sure that's stable, right? So your salinity, your temperature, and then you need to test for, the ammonia, nitrite. Okay. People will stress out about things like pH, and they'll go really crazy into things like ORP, right? Those things, while they matter, don't stress over them. If you don't ever test for your pH, you're probably going to be okay. If you don't ever test for your ORP, you're probably going to be okay. When you're starting out a brand new tank, make sure your salinity is stable. Make sure your temperature is stable. And then you want to test for ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate. That's pretty much all you need to test until your tank is fully cycled. Your ammonia, the most important during a cycle, because ammonia is toxic to your livestock. So if you were to have fish or invertebrates in a tank that has high ammonia, even as low as 2 parts per million, it could cause ammonia poisoning and kill them. Ammonia is very, very toxic. So you obviously want to test for that. Nitrite and nitrate, not as big of a deal. Nitrite, my understanding is that your livestock typically don't even take up the nitrate, so they don't interact with the nitrite. And then the nitrate, again, not really that toxic. So during that cycling process, test for ammonia, make sure your ammonia goes down to 0. And then nitrite's the middle one where you have ammonia, nitrite, just better, ammonia, nitrite, nitrate. Because in the nitrogen cycle, your ammonia will come up first, then aerobic bacteria will consume the ammonia will go down, and then your nitrite will go up. Okay, once your nitrite spikes, there's more different kinds of bacteria that are aerobic still that will consume your nitrite. So your ammonia went up, it went down. Then your nitrite goes up, more different kinds of bacteria will consume that. Your nitrite will go down. Then your nitrate will go up. And your nitrate probably won't go down fast, okay? Because nitrate is not consumed by aerobic bacteria. It's consumed by anaerobic bacteria. And that's the bacteria that needs low to no oxygen environments to thrive. And that anaerobic bacteria lives in a deep sand bed. It lives in the middle of a piece of dense live rock. It lives in ceramic biomedia that you have in your sump in a low flow area, okay? And what that does is that takes nitrate and it converts it into nitrogen gas, which will then off gas through your system. So for a beginner, those 3 elements are crucial, because once your ammonia spikes and goes down, and then your nitrite spikes, once your nitrite goes back down, your cycle is pretty much complete. Your nitrate might still sit here high. That's why they always say do a large water change after your cycle. So you're going to remove a lot of that nitrate from the system, right? And then you just will have to monitor that to make sure your nitrate levels don't get really far out of hand, not because it's dangerous, but because a lot of nuisance algae will thrive on high nitrates, okay? So that's it. Cycling a tank, those 3 things are really what you need to test for. Once your tank is cycled, now I'm talking long-term. I'm not talking like it just cycled once and then you move on, because what's gonna happen is once you start adding livestock in, you might see your ammonia go back up a little bit, and then your nitrite might go back up. So you have to still test after you start adding livestock, right? How often do you need to test these things? During a cycle, I mean, you don't have to test every day during a cycle. If there's no livestock in there, you're not going to hurt anything, right? So I would test every few days, every 2 or 3 days. If you want to test every day, great. You can make a little graph and a little chart, and you'll know exactly when your cycle's done. When is your cycle done? When your nitrites have gone back down to 0. Okay, that's pretty much it. Make sure they spike, they go back down to 0. So anyway, once you add livestock in, keep testing for ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate just to make sure that the bio load doesn't spike too high. Your ammonia might spike a little bit. That's okay. You don't want it to spike as high as it did the first time. Okay, so keep on testing those 3 things. Once your tank is stable, once you have your livestock in, your corals, your fish, whatever inverts you have, and it's stable and you're no longer getting any sort of swings here, maybe except your nitrate goes up and down, then what should you test? Let me take a sip real quick. Okay, what do you need to test long-term? Here's what I test. I will occasionally test for ammonia just to make sure. Now in this tank, since I never make a change, I don't test for ammonia anymore because it's the same. It's always the same. But my 40-gallon breeder quarantine tank, you know, that doesn't have a large biological filter set up, I will still test for ammonia. All right. I will still test for ammonia. So occasionally test for ammonia. Okay. Long-term nitrite, you don't need to test for it. It's, in my opinion, it's kind of pointless. There's really no reason to test for nitrite outside of cycling your tank. Nitrite will just tell you when your tank is cycling and when it's done cycling. So don't worry about it. So I would test occasionally, like if your tank's stable, once a week, once every 2 weeks, I probably test this for ammonia. Okay, I never test this for ammonia. I test my 40-gallon breeder tank for ammonia once a week or once every 2 weeks. Then you want to test for nitrate. Okay, nitrate is really important for long-term stability of your tank when it comes to algae, when it comes to nuisance algae, when it comes to possible cyano outbreaks or dino outbreaks. Okay. It used to be when I started in this hobby, and that was only 7, 8 years ago, we went for 0 nitrates. We no longer think 0 nitrates is the answer. Okay. Having a low level of detectable nitrates. I'm not talking like 40, 50 parts per million. I'm talking like 5 parts per million, you know, like really small amounts, but something detectable. Okay. So I would test for nitrates in your tank in a stable tank, at least every week. I mean, I probably test it once. Yeah, I test once a week. I test for nitrates because what I find is my nitrates for me, when I'm starting out a new tank, will be too high. Okay. So then the question is how do you lower those nitrates? Okay. But long-term, I find my nitrates are too low. 0, nada. That's when bad things can happen and when outbreaks of cyano and dino can happen. And that typically means I'm over skimming my tank. I have my skimmer on too much. Okay. So you test for ammonia rarely in an established tank, nitrates weekly. Obviously, you're going to test for salinity, temperature. I mean, that just goes without saying, obviously. And then what else do I test for? I test for phosphates. Nitrates and phosphates are 2 super important things you're going to always test for in every tank long-term because they are really big in not only nuisance algae growth, but we're finding that having some detectable level of nitrates and phosphates are also really important for coral growth. I don't know why that is. I'm a theology teacher by trade. I'm not a scientist, so I have no idea. So you're going to test for your phosphates, your nitrates and your phosphates. Again, your goal for phosphates is not 0. It used to be. You don't want 0. Have a low number, 0.05, maybe 1, maybe up to 0.15, something like that. But you want detectable nitrates and you want detectable phosphates for coral growth and to reduce nuisance algae and to make sure dinos and cyanobacteria don't come on board. All right. So again, we're talking right now long-term. We already talked about what to test for when you're cycling your tank. Now we're talking about what to test for long-term. Ammonia rarely. You want to test frequently, once a week, nitrate and phosphate. And then if you are growing corals, you want to test weekly for calcium and alkalinity. And less important is magnesium. I don't even test for magnesium. Yeah, magnesium. Okay. Calcium and alkalinity, you're going to want to test for those every week as well, especially as your coral population grows, they are going to deplete your calcium and alkalinity levels. So testing weekly for calcium and alkalinity is also going to be really important because it's going to tell you whether or not your water changes are keeping up or whether or not you need to start some sort of dosing, like a balling method or a 2-part dosing method. All right. So long-term, you're testing ammonia, rarely, nitrate and phosphate, you're testing for once a week. Calcium and alkalinity, you're testing for once a week as well. Magnesium, am I saying magnesium? Yeah, magnesium. Magnesium doesn't deplete that quickly. It just doesn't deplete that quickly from your tank. So testing for magnesium once a month is going to be totally fine. Can you test for pH? Of course. Of course. You know what? If you live in the Midwest in the middle of winter and there's a large family in a house, you're going to test your pH in the wintertime and you're going to be getting 7.7 and 7.8, and it's going to stress you out. Well, it's fine. Your tank's going to be fine. It's just there's a lot of carbon dioxide in your house, so your pH is going to be naturally depressed. Okay. So can you test for that? Yes. Do you need to test for things like iodine and strontium and boron? I never have. But if you're really getting into like high-end corals and want to propagate and nail those things in, then yes, testing for some of those minor elements is also going to be really important. So recap, beginner tank, starting up during the cycle, you want to test for salinity, temperature, ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate. Okay. Then once your tank is established, obviously salinity, temperature, rarely ammonia, you're going to test weekly for nitrate, for phosphate, for calcium and alkalinity. And then once a month, you're going to test for magnesium. Okay. Sorry, that was a really long-winded answer. I feel like that's all I'm doing here. If you are on this video and this is helpful for you, you want to see these again, if you could go ahead and give this a thumbs up, that would be really, really helpful for this video. I'm going to call it. I have to use the restroom. I've been drinking a whole bunch of tea while I've been here. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to send me questions. You can check out my Instagram. It's just at myfirstfishtank. DM me questions, and I would be happy to answer them. I will send you a voice message answer. If I can't get back to you, then just check us out next week, next Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to do a help desk where we just answer these questions. Again, this video will go live on YouTube. I will do a little bit of editing, and then I will put it by question so that you can go back and you can click on the question with the timestamp, and we'll take you right there. Thank you for everybody who has been here. This is great. Again, give that a thumbs up. Happy reefing, everybody. Happy Saturday, and I hope you're all well. Take care.